I've noticed that a lot of folks who follow Ellis County Weather love to use rain gauges, and I love it when you use them too, because it allows me to get information from you about how much rain fell in your part of the county. But there's a few things to keep in mind when placing a rain gauge. You want to make sure, for one, that it's about 2 to 5 feet off of the ground. You want to make sure that it's above the ground and that no condensation or dew or anything from the ground can get in. And that can cause some issues if you have that excess moisture that could throw off your numbers if you really want to be precise. You also want to make sure that it's away from any kind of tall structure or trees or anything like that, anything above it that might lend additional moisture. For example, you want to be about 10 feet away from a home or a really tall tree. You don't want runoff from the house to add to those totals artificially. You want to make sure too that you don't have any dripping rain from trees to kind of throw that off. And then you want to make sure too that it's further away from any crops or really tall grasses that could otherwise impede your access of the raindrops to your rain gauge. You also want to make sure it's away from any sprinklers or any kind of irrigation systems, any uh, probably away from your pool where water may splash or drainage pipes or anything like that. Any source of water, additional water, especially when it's not rainwater, you want to try to avoid those areas. You also really need to keep it clean. You don't want a rain gauge that's full of dirt or dust or whatever the case might be. They could, again, kind of throw off your numbers and make it a little harder to get a really good reading. Finally, and I feel like this is obvious, but I want to say it, you want to make sure that you empty it each time. If you're trying to go by day to day or hour to hour, if one of these days when we get a glorious multi-rain event, especially when we have things like hurricanes that come off the coast or just any of those major storms um, that will bring in a lot of moisture and you're trying to keep track day to day or by a certain time, you want to make sure that you are emptying it out and trying to be as timely and efficient with that as possible. Some folks just want it there and they'll just collect see how much rain is in there at the end of the day. There's a wide variety of rain gauges out there. Some digital rain gauges will actually drain the water at a certain time, or they'll cut off at a certain hour. It'll be smart enough, I guess, these smart devices we have now to cut off and say, okay, well, this is how much fell through midnight on this date, and then start again. There's all kinds of different ways, and then there's of course the old-fashioned, just manual ones. They got very, very large ones. They got small, everything in between. So you want to make sure that they're in an open area away from any kind of irrigation devices or other artificial sources of water. One of the most common places I've seen people put them is fences. And that's a pretty good idea. Usually it's going to be further away from the house, especially if it's on the back fence and there's no trees on that back fence line, because it's going to be in the middle of the two backyards, so the two houses are going to be further apart. So use your own judgment, and if you want to have one in your garden, again, make sure that it's not going to be where it's going to get water in it. If you're watering your garden or you have a sprinkler system or that kind of thing, make sure to just be careful about where you place them so that you're going to get accurate numbers, so that you're not going to be having to constantly guess and try to go back and think, well, I watered this day, so I wonder whatever happened. Make it easier on yourself. If I missed any tips, this is a short video, but if I missed any tips or if you have come up with ideas that have helped you, put those down in the comments, or even if you have any questions about rain gauges that maybe I can help answer for you. Put those down in the comments. I would love to hear from you in relation to this video. Rain gauges seem like a really trivial thing, but I know that there are folks out there who want to make sure they do it right and have the right information and the most accurate results. So I thought I would share with you just a few pointers on that. Make sure you're going to elliscountyweather.com to follow all the latest forecast information. Go to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube as well for all the latest there. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.